Welcome to our Game of Thrones Season 2 recap.
1,000,000 men could have marched on these walls, and 1,000,000 men would have been repelled. But an attack from the air with dragon fire.
Season 2, Christian, for the longest time, and I fought you with this, that it was my all-time favorite season for the longest time. Watching this and even knowing what seasons 1 through 4 were to me, watching them, I'm like, this show is perfect. Who is trying to become a king here? Because it's the War of the Five Kings, Christian, and we can only have one. Season 2, Episode 1, The North Remembers. Right away, Christian, we see the innocence of Sansa saving the drunk guy when we see her and Joffrey after the beheading of Ned Stark and how they're celebrating all that. Tyrion comes out. He becomes the new Hand of the King. Cersei's not really about that. Joffrey's like, oh, fuck.
Like Tyrion's awesome. He's also in the best position he's ever been in, and he is making that known immediately. Like his interactions with Cersei, but also his interactions with Joffrey, where he's basically calling him a coward the minute he walks out there. You know what I mean? He's emboldened in a way that he has never been emboldened, because for the first time, he's got some responsibility from his father. Whether that's good reasons or bad reasons, he's taken it, in good stride.
Next up, we see Jon Snow and the introduction of Craster and the whole incest situation happening with that. We also see the introduction of Melisandre, and now we see the different types of religion happening here. We also see the introduction of Stannis, who believes he is now a chosen prophet through the whispers that Melisandre is throwing in his ear all throughout the episode, but more importantly, all throughout the season, as we will talk about in a bit. We see Robb just kicking ass, knowing that he is winning wars, and he talks with Jaime with that direwolf scene in the little cellar camp, which I thought was super amazing. We get Robb telling the Lannister cousin the terms and conditions he wants with his sisters reunited, and that the North wants to have their own independent nation, and they just want to say kind of fuck all this nonsense.
Yeah, man, the Robb Stark thing is the most interesting, just because you see him trying to make moves to not necessarily get people killed, but you already see the seeds of discontent back in Winterfell. And that might be episode 2, so I'm sorry if I'm jumping forward, but there's a point where we see Bran, and he is very, very bored when he's taking like all the Lord meetings in Winterfell. And you can tell people are already like, well, they're fighting for Robb Stark's war, like being real shitty about it. But that's important, I think, just to show that, like, yeah, people are loyal because they're bannermen, which means that at some point years ago, someone swore allegiance, and for some reason, we're still doing it. There's a part where I guess Lord Mormont had thought that Jon was being a little insubordinate. Yeah. And he kind of like throws him against the wall. He's like, who am I? He's like, Lord Commander. He's like, and who are you? Like, I'm your steward. He's like, do you want to lead one day? Well, then you need to learn how to follow. And I was like, yes. Okay, good. Because you need these character moments, because Jon is a fucking Boy Scout season 1 and season 2. Now he's beyond the wall. He's playing a different game, and he's got to learn how to do it the right way.
The Lannisters are getting fucked all throughout this season. Not only do they have to worry about Robb Stark, but they have to worry about Renly. Renly has the biggest army right now in the beginning of this. Hell, through half of this season, teaming out with the Tyrells, they are 100,000 strong, Christian. So after Stannis hears about his brother teaming up with the Tyrells, he just annoyed, because Stannis knows this is his by birthright. And as soon as we see this episode ends, we end up finding out that we end up finding out that Joffrey has sent an assassination out there, because he's hearing these rumors about his mother and uncle, Jaime here having some incestuous stuff. With all that, he's not about that. And episode 1 with the North Remembers ends with Joffrey taking out all of King Robert's bastard children. Season 2, episode 2, The Night Lands. We begin the episode here with Arya meeting Jack and Hagar. We have Theon going to the Iron Islands, and oh man, I totally forgot how interesting all of this was going to be, because poor Theon is here trying to figure out his identity, and we see a lot of that sprinkled in all throughout the season. The first time he meets his sister, it's a little creepy here, man. How do you feel about the scene the first time you saw it, Christian?
I was like fucking mad at him, but I was also like, what are you doing, lady? Like, say something. Like, she seems way too on board with it, right?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't say anything. It's not even like a stop. And I know that sounds shitty and I'm not trying to make it sound like that, but like that whole scene was weird. The previous scene to that where he's like fucking the lady in the boat, I really like though, because unless I'm wrong, this is the last time Theon Greyjoy gets laid before it all goes wrong for him. As far as Theon's character, you do get to see the conflicted nature of it. He's wearing Stark clothes. His dad doesn't like that shit. You know, he's not Greyjoy enough for him. And you can tell that Theon is in between identities. And it's like a real sad thing for him.
We see more stuff of Stannis and Melisandre saying, hey, give yourself to Lord of the Light. We are seeing now the introduction of multiple religions in this season, and we will see more of that all throughout the season.
This is the moment where she's like, you need to give all of me over, or give all of yourself to the Lord of the Light, remember? As she seduces Stannis. This is the moment. Think about it. This is literally the moment. Like you said, RPG, go left or go right, but you can't go back. By doing this sets off, this is the first step in a journey that ends up with, I'm going to do a lot of spoilers here, I apologize.
Yeah.
But this ends up with, like Stannis' death, Renly's death, his daughter being burned at the fucking stake.
Yeah.
His kingdom and sigil being wiped out from the earth. This is the beginning of that moment. And again, it's so, like, we're watching this show, and I know you feel the same way about Robb later on, man, but you're watching it and you're just like, damn it, that's a pitfall, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. And they do it anyway because, you know, we have the benefit of hindsight of knowing how it ends for them.
Episode 2 of the Nightlands ends with Jon seeing a White Walker because Craster is giving one of his sons before he is knocked out. So, jumping into episode 3, what is dead may never die. Now, we see Theon fully embracing his identity as a Greyjoy here. But again, poor Theon, because fuck, all throughout this, you pity him, and you're like, he wants to be accepted into his actual birthright family, but guess what? His father was an asshole. He didn't do anything to bring him back. And there's great character moments I just wanted to bring out where Theon is shouting at his father, and he's like, listen, you give me shit, you're the one who gave me away. You're the one who abandoned me. Don't tell me that I'm the wuss here. And what the hell do you have to say about that? And Balon, being the bitch that he is, he walks away. And we are getting the introductions of the Tyrells. And oh my God, baby girl, Marjorie is so fucking fine. Natalie Dormer is my wife. The first time I saw her, I'm like, I'm going to marry that girl one day, Christian. We also see the introduction of Brienne, who is this giant woman. And we see not only the introduction of Brienne of Tarth, but how noble she is and just kind of her relationship with Catelyn Stark here. So I'll let you go ahead and take it over from here.
Brienne is the only motherfucker who knows what's really going on.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the Catelyn Stark thing, it's like, look, the Starks are trying to get every ally they can. If they can secure Balon, if they can secure Renly, they get to avoid war. And that's what this ultimately is about. They want their independence, and they want to obviously get Sansa and Arya back, but they're trying to not get everyone killed. And their thinking in this moment is like, listen, if we can get, triple the amount of people they have and they know that we're coming, they'll sue for peace and we can save a lot of lives.
We also go back to King's Landing in episode 3 with Tyrion cleaning house as the Hand of the King. I do have this clip I want to play because it is one of my favorite moments in season 2.
I plan to marry Princess Marcella off to Theon Greyjoy. You must tell no one.
Tell no one what?
All right, and I'm going to stop it right here. This was, Christian, one of my favorite scenes. We are seeing Littlefinger do what he does best. That is cleaning house. He's trying to figure out who's the liar. So, of course, we end up seeing this this little plan he does where he says Marcella is going to be sent off and she might be married to one of the Martells, one of the Greyjoys, and I forgot the other ones. And he's trying to figure out who is the bigger liar here. Is it Varys, Littlefinger, Pycelle, so on and so forth? Great thing I just wanted to mention.
There's a really wonderful scene where Shay first gets to King's Landing or whatever, and Tyrion comes back to his room, and Varys is there. And I love that scene because there's a bunch of veiled threats or whatever, but it ends with as Varys is trying to open the door to go to the small council. Tyrion says this line, which is like, I am not Ned Stark. I know how this game is played. And what I love about this is the very next episode, they're not content on just telling you that Tyrion knows how the game is played. They show you that this motherfucker knows how to play it.
So now let's go ahead and jump to episode 4, and that is Garden of Bones. We see the introduction of Roose Bolton, who we all know to love and hate later on this season, but we're not in season 3 yet, Christian. So right now, Roose Bolton, he's just informing Jon that, listen, that Theon is pretty much attacking Winterfell. I can send my son to go ahead and capture him, and he will pay for what he has done. And we also see the introductions of Robb falling in love with Talisa. And man, listen, Robb is on a hot streak right now. He's on a hot streak. He can love someone, but we'll see what happens later on this season. Joffrey mocks Sansa. Meryn Trant ends up beating her. Tyrion saves the day and also realizes, and us, that Joffrey's a sadist, man. He just loves seeing people get tortured, and he probably fucking jerks off to that. We see Littlefinger doing what he does best too, which, listen, although he may be a bad guy, I just love seeing him work his puppetry on every character. And he's slowly figuring out what's Marjorie's deal, what's Renly's deal, you know, what's happening over here with the Martells to stand with Renly and all that. Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie arrive at Harrenhal, and we also see the introductions of the list of people Arya wants to defeat.
The list, that is something that still goes on. We're still talking about, is Arya going to get everyone on that list?
We see how cold Stannis is, man. He just like he tells his brother once, stop doing this nonsense. You can't be a king. You have no background of any of this stuff of like war, strategical, military stuff. Let me do this. And Renly throws it back right at him, even when he told Ned back in season 1, listen, man, people don't like you. You're a great military strategist and all that stuff. You can get shit done. But you know what the definition of a king is? Someone the people love. And guess what? The people love me. And I don't know why I wanted to do this Robb Van Dam thing.
Yeah,
so
love it.
he's loved. So we see Tywin now arrives at Harrenhal, who Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie are there as well. Tyrion knows Lancel is sleeping with Cersei. Something, again, very quick, but something I very much enjoy. There's a point where even Tyrion says, God, making fun of you is not even entertaining anymore for me because you are such a bitch. Stannis tells Davos, send Melisandre away to a private island. I don't want you to talk about it. And the episode ends with, Christian, what the fuck? A black thing came out of Melisandre's vagina.
A shadow Stannis, I believe, which is not good. But yeah, pure evil. This takes us back to a couple episodes again where you have to give all of yourself over to the Lord of the Light. So this is what that was. They conceived something fucking purely evil, and like a kind of weird, awesome effect in the show, by the way, because it did freak me out. And this weird evil thing has major ramifications for other characters.
Absolutely. So now let's go ahead and jump into episode 5. That is the Ghost of Harrenhal. And with the crazy baby coming out, well, Renly is dead here. Doesn't look good for Brienne Tarth and Lady Stark here because they were the only ones there. And how the hell did they explain that, hey, so this shadow monster that looks like Stannis ended up killing Renly? Doesn't sound believable if you ask me or anyone. Littlefinger, again, now is asking and prying the Tyrells and figuring out, what do you want here? What do you want here? And again, this is where we see the episode where Marjorie's like, I want to be the queen. Cersei and Tyrion need to prepare for the upcoming war. And what the hell do they do? Tyrion ends up discovering, Christian, wildfire is a thing. Not only is it a real thing, but this was something that the Mad King had, and I wrote down here 7,811 pots of wildfire is what ended up happening. Christian, we have also been neglecting Daenerys Stormborn because, listen, she was in Karth, and let me go ahead and just say she looks good in blue. So, but the interesting thing with Daenerys, because we've been neglecting her throughout this whole conversation, is that, listen, everything is looking dire for her. After Khal Drogo died, she's trying to figure out her identity, and she's just trying to figure out herself as a person. We see lots of things happening with Dany in this season where she thinks, well, you know, by birthright, I deserve the Iron Throne. And then we see not Zaro Hoobla, but the second guy, the rich guy, questioning Daenerys and saying, well, listen, why do you want the Iron Throne? Well, because it's given to me by birthright. Really? Do you know anyone in Westeros that's going to support you? Do you have an army? Not to mention, baby girl, you don't got ships. So you can, make threats to me all day, but you're not going to do anything because your situation is not looking good here in Karth, the greatest city that ever was and that there ever will be.
Dany's story is taking place slower and stretched out over time, so it's not as like sexy to do episode by episode. But her arc is very much about learning to be a like manipulative. I don't want to say even a ruler, because there are further seasons that are about her learning how to rule. But this is her learning how to corral support. This is her learning how to play that game, that manipulative game. She fails a lot in this season.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's not able to secure passage multiple times, but by the end of the season, and we'll obviously get into it, she kind of has learned to play the game much better, and now she's put herself in a much better and advantageous position.
The episode ends with Arya's target dying because I forgot back at Harrenhal, Arya saves Jaqen Hagar's life and also says, listen, thanks for saving my life. You get 3 wishes. And this is, again, the introduction of more fantastical elements happening within Game of Thrones, which is really powerful because now we get to see this great character that Jaqen Hagar is and what we see him doing later on season, which is really great. And the episode ends with that. The folks at King's Landing are not receptive to Joffrey. They're throwing pieces of shit at him, literally, and they're just rebelling because they don't like this. And then, of course, we see this guy over here pulling some Mortal Kombat fatalities, so that is something I also wanted to note, too. There's a lot of Civil War stuff happening within King's Landing, Christian. And that is the end of episode 5, Harrenhal. Let's go ahead and talk about episode 6, The Old Gods and the New. Theon finally takes over Winterfell. Bran is like, okay, he's waking up, and he's like, Theon, what's happening here? And Theon's like, hey, listen, I've taken over. What do you want me to, just, you have to respect me. And Bran is like, okay, why? So I do like that. Again, we see more moments of Theon just trying to figure out his identity. He ends up killing Sir Roderick, one of the loyal bannermen of House Stark. We get more playful banter between Tywin and Arya. And Christian, I'm just going to play just a little bit of this conversation that Tywin and Arya has. But, man, this was one of the reasons why Season 2 was my favorite season for the longest time, because this is a deviation from the books.
She's a heroine of yours, I take it. Are most girls more interested in the pretty maidens from the songs? Jonquil, flowers in her hair?
Most girls are idiots.
Tywin is not only impressed with Arya that, wow, you not only change your identity to kind of fit in with the situation that you're in, you're also very intelligent, you know how to read, and there's moments and pockets that I love with their relationship that they have where you see Arya not only saying, well, listen, I'm against the grain of what a female should be in this world, but there's moments where Tywin's like, fuck, I kind of wish you were like my daughter. So let's go beyond the wall here. We get the introduction of Ygritte. Jon Snow and Ygritte going back and forth, getting a little up close and personal, and Ygritte kind of making fun of Jon that, listen, you can't fuck. What's going on here? I don't know why anyone wants to become a man of the Night's Watch. And, we see a little bumping and grinding action happening, which I thought was pretty funny. But again, we see these character moments of Jon that he wants to do the right thing by taking these vows and promises. But again, Ygritte is throwing that practicality out of him, saying that, listen, you can have your cake and eat it too. This world sucks. At least enjoy the small things in life. Robb, falling in love with Lady Talisa here from Volantis, right? And we also see Kat finally being reunited with, Robb. And, Kat is saying, Robb, listen, you can love her, but you made a deal with the Freys. So just keep that in mind. Oh, yes, I will, Mom. Oh, yes, I will. I'm not going to break that vow, So, and the episode ends here with Rickon and Bran leaving Winterfell because, Theon has now taken over. And Daenerys' dragon stolen and heading into the House of the Undying. So now let's go ahead and jump into episode 7, A Man Without Honor. Theon is annoyed that, fuck, how did we let the 2 Stark boys escape? How did that happen? Not only that, we see this beautiful wide shot of Harrenhal and just kind of see the destructive forces of it, where Tywin ends up telling Arya that this place used to be really indestructible. It had high castles, high defenses. It was fortified, and guess what? Dragons burned it down a long, long time ago. While Tyrion is cleaning house back at King's Landing, we see not only a brother and sister relationship, we see Tyrion trying to, counsel his sister once Marcella has left and she is being shipped off to Dorne, and there's a beautiful moment here where she's crying and Tyrion kind of wants to hug her and wants to touch her, and there's a moment where that awkwardness plays out where they both look at each other and he doesn't know what to do. I thought that was just really great and really powerful.
For better or for worse, they're blood, you know, and it's in those small moments where you're just like, God damn it. Like, these broken people could be okay if they just tried, but Cersei's just way too fucked up, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we haven't talked about the relationship the Hound has with Sansa. So there's a point, again, while this craziness is happening within King's Landing, where the Hound ends up saving Sansa from becoming raped because Joffrey doesn't want anything to do with it after, you know, he got humiliated. So we see that, and I love that relationship blossom because, you know, for the most part, we don't know what to think of the Hound, but being the servant to Joffrey, and we see great moments of the Hound, which I have a video clip of episode 9, which I will play for you guys later on. But Sansa also has her period. Now she's freaking out because, well, fuck, that means now I can give Joffrey kids, and I don't want to give him kids after everything I've been dealing with. We also have Jaime killing his cousin to escape, and he actually does so successfully. We see this big moment here in the East where Dany confronts the 12 video game villains back in Karth, and the crazy magic guy with a 000, whatever his name is, ends up defeating all of them. And that's a big WTF moment in Karth. Do you want to talk about this moment just for a second, Christian?
And this is all about learning pains for Dany. It's about getting her where she needs to get to in the first place. And I just think it's also the introduction to some really fucked up magic too, man, because we got like that creepy charlatan and all that stuff that's going on.
Episode 7 ends with Theon supposedly killing Bran and Rickon, but we all know that's not the case. And then we jump into episode 8, the Prince of Winterfell. Yara finally arrives at Winterfell and calls Theon the C word. How can you let these Stark boys, run off, right? Or no, she doesn't know that. She's just like, okay, well, bravo, you took over Winterfell, but guess what? We're known for being great people with our fleets and battling in the seas. Listen, the moment that these Northerners hear that you killed these Stark boys, they're going to have your head. So, baby brother, we need to go back. Theon is like, fuck that. I want to stay here. I want to stay my ground. I want to prove I'm an Ironborn. Thank you, Carlos. Samwell discovers the Horn of Heaven. But whether or not this is going to be a thing in season 8 is yet to be determined. But more importantly, the introduction of Dragonglass. And we end up finding out through exposition of Samwell Tarly that one horn means like white, or not White Walkers. 3 horns is White Walkers, 2 is Wildlings, and 1 means like immediate danger. So
Rangers returning.
Rangers returning. Yeah. So we see a lot of that stuff happening. We are getting closer to the war. Before episode 9, Tyrion is freaking out. He's like, listen, I need to do some serious shit here. And he's freaking out. Cersei's acting very nonchalant. Robb is still winning the war. Stannis is right around the door. So now we got to deal with the North. We got to deal with the Baratheons. The Lannisters are not looking good here, Christian. One of the dumbest things happening is Jaime letting go of, or Catelyn letting go of Jaime here. And she was thinking, well, if I give away Jaime with Brienne to King's Landing here, that, they're going to, broker this trade here to give back my 2 daughters, because Kat thinks that Arya and Sansa are still back at King's Landing, when we all know that is not the case. So we do see the introduction and the funny dynamic that is Brienne of Tarth with Jaime. We'll get a lot of that in season 3, but seeing it happen in season 2 is pretty cool. We see Varys and Tyrion develop a relationship, and we see that relationship blossom all throughout season 2, where he's like, listen, man, I know there's this war that's about to come out, but Dany has 3 dragons back in Karth, and she's got 2 generals that are not 2 generals. I'm jumping ahead. That's season 3. But Mormont is fully on her side, and just to let you know, dragons are a thing. And Tyrion says here that, one problem at a time. We haven't talked about Sir Davos here. I love this character so much, Christian. You can tell right away the Onion Knight means nothing but goodwill and faith to Stannis. He is a believer of hashtag Team Stannis all the way. We see his son over here. He's leading the fleet. And of course, we get these moments where these two talk about, listen, we're going to win this war. And when you win this war, Onion Knight, you're going to become the hand of the king. And I think a lot of us would agree that would have been awesome to see. We see these introductions of not only one of the best episodes of, Blackwater, but just kind of this perspective on what war is, right? And when you hear the horns sounding off in King's Landing and Bronn singing while, the Hound is just kind of so angry about it, Davos is like, okay, we can play some music too. And then you hear the drums and you're like, dun, 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 dun. And it is, again, one of the reasons why I hold this season so high, because it's just so spectacular. We see the wildfire, and man, all of Stannis' fleets are gone. And Stannis is like, we're going to keep on going. I don't give a fuck. And he's like, the soldier to Stannis, hundreds are going to die. And Stannis, as cruel as he is, probably thousands. And then he just throws that line, men, if you want to win, let's go, right? I'm butchering the line, but you get what I'm saying? And then we see one of the most exciting episodes of season 9. Before I play that beautiful scene with the Hound, I want you to talk about, what did you feel when you were watching Blackwater?
So you see a lot of like Tyrion having, potentially last moments with his loved ones. But even like when war has gone on, there's a scene I really love where Cersei's like gathered her kids in the throne room. Like she's prepared to murder all of her kids just to make sure that her kids don't fall into the hands of the enemies.
We also get the introduction of Sir Podrick earlier in the season, and we end up finding out that he's a good, wholehearted guy, and he's definitely supporting Tyrion any way he can, and he ends up saving his life. But before Tyrion goes into battle, we end up seeing that the Hound, because we got it sprinkled in season 1, that, listen, him and his brother, his brother screwed him mentally and psychology. What's the word I'm looking for? I said psychology. Psychologically. Thank you. Wow. Through fire freaks him out. The moment he sees fire, even when he looked at the wildfire from the back, he's like, I'm kind of scared with all of this. And Joffrey ends up telling him, go back out there and fight. And that is not until the Hound tells him this.
Fuck the king's guard. Fuck the city. Fuck the king.
And I'm out. End scene with the Hound. He has no idea what the hell he's doing. He talks a big game. He can have all the fancy armor he wants, but at the end of the day, Joffrey is a bitch, and we love to hate him because he does such an amazing job all throughout that. And then we get that powerful scene where Tyrion says, listen guys, don't fight for the king. Don't fight for the city, fight for yourselves, because if we don't, Stannis is going to sack the city. He's going to take your women. He's going to take everything you love and your families, and let's fucking go. And I thought that was one of the best scenes all throughout Blackwater. God damn it. How the fuck did this happen, Christian? The Lannisters were losing all throughout this season. And then, of course, Tywin comes with the Tyrells saying, we won. And that's how the episode ends. After that, we finally go into the last episode. That is episode 10, Volumagulis. And we end up seeing Tyrion waking up after being attacked from what happened from the events of Blackwater. He thinks he's ugly. He thinks Shay's not going to love him. He's not the hand of the king anymore. And it's really unfortunate because you and I know, and the rest of the audience members know, that if it wasn't for Tyrion right now, none of this stuff would have happened. Stannis would have eventually sacked the whole city. Wildfire wouldn't have been into the picture. And it would have been a much different outcome. And of course, Varys ends up telling him, the city and the people will know that you saved us. Unfortunately, the victors, what's that expression? The guys
history will not know, but I will know. And he fucking hits it so hard. And you're like, well, that's all that matters, right? As long as someone lives to tell your story. But yeah, history's not going to know. Tywin's not going to care.
And, of course, we see here my wife trying to propose to Joffrey, which I don't know why that's happening because that doesn't make no sense. But she says, I want to become the queen. So, of course, Sansa's finally let go, and we see her smiling. But that isn't until we see Littlefinger end up telling her that, listen, don't think you're free because now that you mean nothing, Joffrey's not going to let go of his toys that easily, and things might actually get much more worse for you, but I can help you out if you allow me to. Kat ends up telling Robb, don't mess with the phrase, because if you mess up this relationship here of getting married with this random Volantis girl, that things are not going to look good. And of course, Robb ends up telling her, well, I don't care. We see Brienne and Jaime having more of their relationship, and I love how Jaime just constantly making fun of her, where they're having a conversation, and he's like, hold on, have you ever had sex before? Wait, you're a woman? Like, just being a total asshole, which I love very much. Stannis is now totally defeated and angry, chokes out Melisandre and says, what happened? You know what? I was supposed to win this war. And she's like, well, the Lord of Light says you did. And I still see your future here. And again, when you jumped ahead above me just a little bit, you brought that line where she's like, well, listen, before this war's over, you're going to betray your brother, your family, your bannermen, and everything you know and love for this cause, but you're going to win. So come over here and let's look at the light. Dany goes back into the House of the Undying. And we don't talk about this much, and I feel like a lot of people forget about this moment, Christian, but we see the flashback in the future events of her walking into Winterfell, where winter has finally come, or so it may seem anyway, and then we see that great scene of her and Khal Drogo with the baby, and I didn't realize how emotional this scene was, and I'll give it to you here for you to explain it further, but, you know, Drogo was saying, you know, even if this was a dream, I'm going to kill the guy who wakes me up, and I thought that was super touching.
It's a crossing of the threshold for her character moment. Like, now she can officially say goodbye to all that shit. She's also gained some agency while being in Karth. She learned how to kind of manipulate and play that game. And so it's a really important scene. It's like, oh, what could have been and what will be. Again, like, the whole show is about forks in the road, about making a decision. And I just thought this was like a really articulate and like cool, interesting way for them to kind of show that. But also it's the last version of old Dany, you know, young, naive, teenage Dany who didn't know how to do things. This is the moment pretty much going forward where she's not that person anymore. It doesn't make her perfect. She's still flawed. She still has to learn how to lead and to rule. But she's no longer the like hapless little girl she once was. And I just thought that was such a great touch.
We end up finding out that Winterfell is now officially burned down. Theon gets knocked out after making that great speech. I don't know if it was this episode or episode 8. No, I think it was episode 10. The Iron, his people actually give him up to Ramsay. We end up finding out in later seasons or in the upcoming season. But for now, Theon is totally lost. Winterfell is burnt down. The Lannisters have won. How did we go from the beginning of season 2 where everyone was going to defeat the Lannisters? So, well, they're on top, and they couldn't even be any higher with the merging of families between them and the Tyrells. And we also see, going back to Arya, the introduction of Jack and Hagar, and after the 3 wishes are granted, right? And that Arya and Gendry and Hot Pie escapes, that we see Jack and Hagar change his face, and he offers the coin and tells Arya, hey, next time you find someone from Volantis, give them this coin and say Valamogulis. And again, I love that like ominous music they play in the background whenever they have those two people together. And we are going to see much more of them in the later seasons. That looks like I'm sucking a dick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're sucking a lot of Game of Thrones dick right now.
And guess what? Oh, man. Samwell is fucking shitting his pants, because here we go. Not only do we see season 2 end with the White Walkers, but we see that army walking slow as fuck, because they don't come for another 5 seasons, folks. But, and that's how season 2 ends.
The show kind of makes you forget that the White Walkers are even out there. And then they end the season with this holy shit confirmation, and they seem to control the weather too. And beyond that, the season is just great because they introduce so many new people who will go on to be very important to the mythology of the show.
Again, just rewatching these seasons, these earlier seasons, just really reinforced the fact that, like, man, the later seasons to me are just very unexcusable with the shit.
Well, they're TV shows. They're just regular ass TV shows. They stop being some of the best entertainment out there. Like, dude, seasons 1 through 3 are perfect seasons.
Yeah.
And then, you know, season 4, I love a lot. Season 5, season 6 is good. But those first 3 specifically, there is not a weak episode outside of maybe the pilot. It just all becomes some really wonderful television.
Yeah, yeah. So that was our review for season 2 Game of Thrones. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back with season 3 with the one and only Chris Herman, so we can talk about the biggest thing that made Game of Thrones probably the pop mainstream TV show that it was once, and that is the Red Wedding. So look out for that when we talk about that next week. But let me know what you guys think about season 2. Was there something we left out? Was there something we should have added? Let us know in the comments down below.